Commander Torin launched himself forward with incredible speed, using all four of his powerful arms to attack Kim Jun from multiple angles at the same time. The alien commander was much faster than Kim Jun had expected, and his first series of punches created deep craters in the frozen ground where the human soldier had been standing just moments before. But Kim Jun was no longer in that position, because he had rolled away at the last second, using a technique he had learned during Avalanche survival training. The human soldier came up from his role behind Commander Torin and struck at pressure points he had studied in alien anatomy files that were provided to all Earth military units. Commander Torin spun around with surprising speed and caught Kim Jun with a backhand strike from one of his lower arms. The blow sent the human soldier flying through the air and crashing into a large snowbank that had formed against some rocks near the combat area. The alien soldiers cheered, loudly thinking that their commander had already won the fight. Kim Jun emerged from the snowbank completely unharmed and covered in white snow that made him blend in with the environment around him. He had used the soft snow to absorb the impact of the alien strike, just like he had been trained to use terrain features to survive falls during mountain climbing operations on Earth. The alien commander looked surprised that his powerful attack had not seriously injured the human fighter. Most opponents would have been knocked unconscious or badly hurt by such a blow, but Kim Jun seemed ready to continue fighting as if nothing had happened. This was not what Commander Torin had expected from a primitive human warrior. Kim Jun began, moving in a pattern that kept him at the edge of Commander Torin's reach, while looking for opportunities to strike at vulnerable points. The human soldier was much smaller than his opponent, but he was faster and more agile in the difficult conditions created by the falling snow and strong winds. Commander Torin tried to use his superior reach and strength to keep Kim Jun at a distance where his forearms could attack without the human being able to strike back effectively. The alien commander threw powerful punches that could have broken human bones, but Kim Jun used his speed and experience to avoid most of the attacks. When Kim Jun could not dodge an attack completely, he used the environment to his advantage by letting snow and ice absorb some of the impact or by redirecting the alien strikes into the ground or nearby rocks. This technique required perfect timing and understanding of physics, but it allowed him to survive hits that should have ended the fight. The battle continued, with both fighters testing each other's abilities while the weather conditions became more severe. The wind was now strong enough to blow snow horizontally across the combat area, and the temperature was dropping to levels that would be dangerous. For most species in the galaxy, Kim Jun noticed that Commander Torin was starting to move more slowly, and his attacks were becoming less coordinated. The extreme cold was affecting the alien commander ability to fight effectively, while Kim Jun seemed to be getting more comfortable as the conditions became harsher. The human soldier began targeting specific joints and nerve clusters on Commander Torin's body, using techniques that had been developed for fighting opponents with different body structures. Each strike was carefully aimed and designed to cause maximum damage while using minimum energy. Commander Torin became frustrated as his overwhelming physical advantages were not producing the quick victory he had expected. The alien commander had never fought an opponent who could adapt so quickly to his fighting style, or who seemed to get stronger as the battle continued. Kim Jun used the falling snow to hide his movements and create confusion about where the next attack would come from. He had trained extensively in whiteout conditions where visibility was reduced to just a few feet, and he knew how to use sound and air movement to track enemy positions. The alien soldiers watching the fight stopped cheering and began looking worried as they realized that their supposedly invincible commander was not dominating the battle as expected. Some of them started moving closer to the combat area as if they were thinking about intervening to help their leader commander. Torin tried to end the fight with a desperate four-armed grab that was designed to catch Kim Jun in an unbreakable hold. The alien commander used all of his strength to try to crush the human soldier, but Kim Jun had been expecting this type of attack and had prepared a counter technique. Kim Jun used a combination of joint manipulation and pressure point strikes that allowed him to break free from Commander Torin's grip in a way that left the alien commander stunned and confused. The human soldier had studied the weak points in four-armed anatomy and knew exactly where to apply pressure to disrupt nerve function. The tide of the battle was clearly turning as Commander Torin realized that he had seriously underestimated his human opponent. The alien commander had conquered many worlds and defeated countless warriors, but he had never faced an enemy like Kim Jun, who seemed to thrive in impossible conditions. Kim Jun continued his methodical approach to the fight by wearing down Commander Torin defenses while conserving his own energy for the decisive moments that he knew would come. The human soldier had learned patience during long survival missions where rushing could mean death. The storm was now creating near whiteout conditions that made it difficult for the watching alien soldiers to see what was happening in the combat area. Kim Jun used this to his advantage by appearing and disappearing in the blowing snow like a ghost that could strike from any direction. Commander Torin was breathing heavily and his movements were becoming clumsy as the cold affected his alien physiology in ways he had never experienced before. The alien commander had fought on many different planets, but never in conditions this extreme for extended periods. Kim Jun remained calm and focused, despite the physical demands of the fight. He had trained his entire career for situations exactly like this, where superior preparation and adaptation could overcome seemingly impossible odds. The human soldier knew that victory was possible if he continued to fight intelligently. The alien soldiers were now openly concerned about their commander performance, and some of them were reaching for their weapons as if they were considering breaking the rules of single combat to save their leader from an embarrassing defeat. But their military honor code prevented them from interfering in a formal challenge that had been accepted according to Galactic Federation traditions. They could only watch as this single human demonstrated fighting abilities that none of them had believed were possible. Kim Jun saw the uncertainty in the alien forces and realized that he had achieved something more important than just winning a single fight. He was changing how these beings thought about human capabilities, and that could be crucial for future encounters between their species. The battle was reaching its critical phase as both fighters prepared for the final exchanges that would determine the outcome. Commander Torin was desperate to avoid the humiliation of losing to a primitive human, while Kim Jun was focused on achieving a victory that would protect his team and his planet. Commander Torin decided that he needed to make an example of the humans to show his soldiers how easy it would be to conquer Earth. He had seen this situation many times before on other planets, and he knew that breaking the enemy leader would cause all the other defenders to lose hope and surrender without a real fight. The alien commander stepped back and spoke loudly so that all of his soldiers could hear what he was saying. He announced that he would challenge the human leader to single combat according to the ancient traditions of the Galactic Federation. If Kim Jun lost the fight, then all humans would have to leave the planet immediately and never return. Kim Jun looked at Park Min and Lee Han, who were both ready to fight alongside their commander. But he knew that accepting this challenge might be the only way to avoid a battle that would cost many human lives. The alien forces had superior numbers and technology, and a direct fight would probably result in the destruction of the human base and everyone in it. The alien commander continued explaining the rules of combat, while his soldiers formed a large circle around the area where the fight would take place. According to Galactic Federation law, both fighters would use only basic weapons and equipment without any advanced technology that could give one side an unfair advantage. The winner would decide the fate of both forces. Kim Jun thought carefully about his options, while the aliens waited. For his response, he had trained in hand-to-hand combat his entire military career, and he had fought opponents who were bigger and stronger than him before, but he had never faced an alien warrior with 4 arms, who came from a species that had conquered dozens of planets. Park Min moved closer to his commander and whispered that they should fight together as a team, rather than allow Kim Jun to face the alien leader alone. The young corporal was ready to die fighting, rather than surrender to beings who had threatened their planet and their people. Lee Han nodded in agreement and checked his weapons to make sure they were ready for battle. Kim Jun appreciated the loyalty of his team, but he knew that the alien commander was trying to provoke them into a fight where humans would be at a serious disadvantage. If he could win the single combat challenge, it would save lives on both sides and might give humans time to prepare better defenses for future alien encounters. The staff. Sergeant stepped forward and announced that he accepted the challenge to single combat, but only if Commander Torin agreed to honor the results completely. If Kim Jun won the fight, then the aliens would have to leave the planet and recognize human rights to continue their mining operations without interference. Commander Torin agreed to these terms with a confident smile that showed he had no doubt about the outcome of the fight. He had never lost a single combat challenge, and his forearms gave him advantages that no human could possibly overcome. His soldiers began placing bets on how quickly their commander would defeat the primitive human warrior. The combat area was marked out in the snow between the human base and the alien ships. Hundreds of alien soldiers gathered around to watch what they expected to be an entertaining but brief fight. They had seen their commander defeat warriors from many different species, and none had ever lasted more than a few minutes. Against his superior strength and fighting skills, Kim Jun began removing unnecessary equipment from his gear, while keeping the items that were essential for survival in the extreme cold. He kept his winter combat uniform and basic military equipment, but removed anything that might slow him down during the fight. His movements were calm and methodical, like he was preparing for routine training exercise. Commander Torin also prepared for combat by removing his advanced armor and energy weapons. He wanted to defeat the human using only his natural abilities and basic combat gear to make the victory more humiliating for the human forces. He flexed his 4 powerful arms and demonstrated fighting techniques that looked impossible for any two-armed opponent to counter. The weather was getting worse as dark clouds moved across the sky and the wind began blowing harder. The temperature was dropping even further and snow was starting to fall more heavily. Kim Jun seemed completely comfortable in these conditions, while the alien soldiers were beginning to look uncomfortable in the increasing cold. Park Min and Li Han took positions where they could watch the fight and be ready to defend the base if the aliens decided to break their agreement and attack after the combat was over. They had studied the alien forces carefully and identified the locations of enemy weapons and the best defensive positions around their base. Kim Jun checked his equipment one final time and looked at his team members with confidence that surprised them considering the odds he was facing. He had survived in some of the most dangerous places on Earth, and he had learned that determination and intelligence were often more important than superior strength or advanced technology. The alien commander moved to the center of the combat area and issued a challenge roar that echoed across the frozen landscape. His soldiers responded with cheers and war cries that were meant to intimidate the human forces. Kim Jun simply nodded and walked calmly to his position, showing no signs of fear or doubt about the upcoming battle. As both fighters faced each other in the falling snow, Kim Jun noticed that Commander Torin was already showing signs of being affected by the cold weather. The alien leader seemed less comfortable than he had been when he first arrived, and his breathing was creating large clouds of steam in the freezing air. Kim Jun realized that this might give him an advantage, that the aliens had not considered most species in the galaxy, probably lived on planets with comfortable climates, and had never had to adapt to extreme cold like humans had on Earth. The Northern Commandos specialized in fighting in conditions that would be deadly for most other beings. The two warriors circled each other slowly while studying their opponent movements and looking for weaknesses. Kim Jun had learned to read body language from many different types of opponents during his military training, and he could see that the alien commander was confident, but also somewhat cautious about this unusual situation. Commander Torin spoke loudly about how many enemies he had defeated, and how easy it would be to crush one small human who was foolish enough to challenge the might of the Galactic Federation. His soldiers laughed and cheered, but Kim Jun noticed that some of them were now watching more carefully, as if they were beginning to take the human threat seriously. The moment of truth was approaching as both fighters prepared to begin the combat that would decide the fate of human presence on this frozen planet. Kim Jun took his fighting stance with movements that were smooth and practiced, while Commander Torin flexed all 4 of his arms and prepared to end this fight quickly. The falling snow was getting heavier and the wind was becoming stronger, which made visibility more difficult. Kim Jun had trained to fight in whiteout conditions where you could barely see your opponent, but he suspected that the alien commander had never faced such challenges before in his previous victories against other species. The frozen wind howled across the white mountains of planet Iceheart as Staff Sergeant Kim Jun checked his watch for the 3rd time that morning. The sun barely rose above the horizon even during the day, and the temperature stayed well below freezing all year round. This was exactly the kind of place that most people would call impossible to live in. But Kim Jun felt right at home. He had been stationed on this ice planet for 6 months now, leading a small team of Northern Commandos, who specialized in operations in the coldest places in the universe. His team was small, but they were the best soldiers the Earth military had for extreme cold weather combat. They had come here to protect a mining operation that was digging up rare crystals from deep beneath the ice. Corporal Park Min walked up to Kim Jun carrying a hot cup of coffee that steamed in the freezing air. Park Min was a tough soldier who had grown up in the mountains of Korea and knew how to survive in places where the cold could kill you in minutes. He wore the same white camouflage uniform as Kim Jun and carried equipment that was specially designed to work in temperatures that would freeze most machines. Solid Private Lee Han was working on setting up new communication equipment near their base. Lee Han was the youngest member of their team, but he had already proven himself in several difficult missions on Earth. The three of them had worked together for over 2 years, and they could communicate, with just looks and hand signals when they needed to stay quiet. Their base was built into the side of a mountain to protect it from the worst of the wind and snow. It looked small from the outside, but it had everything they needed, including heating, systems that kept them warm, and weapon storage areas that were protected from the cold. Outside the base, there were several large machines that were used for mining the valuable crystals that made this frozen planet worth visiting. Kim Jun was looking at reports on his computer when alarms started going off throughout the base. The three soldiers immediately grabbed their weapons and moved to defensive positions. They had trained for this moment many times, but they had never expected it to actually happen. The sensors around their base were detecting multiple large objects approaching from space. Through the observation windows, they could see 5 massive ships descending through the cloudy sky. The ships were unlike anything humans had ever built, with smooth curved surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. As the ships landed nearby, Kim Jun could see that each one was at least 3 times larger than the biggest human spacecraft he had ever seen. The landing created huge clouds of snow and ice that were blown in all directions by the ship's powerful engines. When the snow settled, Kim Jun could see movement around the ships. Doors were opening and figures were coming out, but they were not human-shaped. These beings were taller than humans and seemed to have more arms than they should. Kim Jun ordered his team to stay ready, but not to shoot unless they were attacked first. He had read reports about the possibility of contact with alien species, but he had never really believed it would happen during his mission. The beings approaching their base were clearly not from Earth, and they were carrying what looked like advanced weapons. The alien leader approached the human base with confident steps that showed he was not worried about any danger. The being was almost 7 feet tall with blue-colored skin and 4 powerful arms. He wore armor that looked like it was made from some kind of metal that reflected light in strange ways. His weapon looked like it could probably destroy their entire base with one shot. Behind the leader came 50 other alien soldiers who moved in perfect formation like they had done this many times before. Each soldier was equipped with similar armor and weapons, and they all looked like experienced warriors who had fought in many battles. The way they moved showed that they were confident about their abilities and expected an easy victory. The alien leader stopped about 20 feet away from the entrance to the human base and spoke in perfect English, which surprised Kim Jun. The being said his name was Commander Vex Torin, and he represented something called the Galactic Federation. He explained that this planet now belonged to his government and all humans had to leave within 1 day. Kim Jun stepped forward and identified himself as the commanding officer of the human forces on the planet. He spoke in a calm and respectful voice, even though he was angry about the alien demands. He explained that humans had legal rights to mine on this planet, and they had no intention of leaving just because aliens told them to. Commander Torin laughed loudly at Kim Jun's response and told him that human laws meant nothing to the Galactic Federation. He said that his ships could destroy the human base in minutes and that humans were just primitive creatures who should be grateful that he was giving them a chance to leave peacefully. The other alien soldiers also laughed, as if the idea of humans fighting back was ridiculous. Kim Jun remained calm, but he was carefully studying the alien forces and looking for any weaknesses he could find. He noticed that the aliens seemed uncomfortable in the cold weather and their equipment was creating steam in the freezing air. This gave him hope that maybe the aliens were not as prepared for this environment as they thought they were. The alien commander continued talking about how powerful the Galactic Federation was, and how many planets they had conquered. He seemed to enjoy intimidating what he thought were helpless humans, and he described in detail what would happen to Earth if humans did not cooperate with alien demands. Kim Jun listened carefully while secretly signaling his team members to prepare for possible combat. Park Min and Li Han moved to better positions while trying to look like they were just following routine procedures. They had practiced these movements hundreds of times and could prepare their defenses without making it obvious what they were doing. Kim Jun was proud of how professional his team remained, even when facing impossible odds. As the conversation continued, Kim Jun realized that these aliens had probably conquered many other planets using the same tactics. They would arrive with overwhelming force and demand surrender without giving anyone time to prepare proper defenses. Most species probably gave up immediately when faced with such advanced technology and superior numbers. But Kim Jun and his team were not like most other beings they might encounter. They had been trained to fight in conditions that would kill most creatures, and they had survived battles that seemed impossible to win. They knew that advanced technology was not always enough to guarantee victory, and that determination and intelligence could sometimes overcome superior firepower. The situation was becoming more tense as Commander Torin became impatient with Kim Jun's refusal to surrender. The alien leader moved closer and his four hands moved toward his weapons as he spoke about what would happen to humans who refused to obey Galactic Federation orders. Kim Jun could see that the peaceful part of this encounter was about to end. Kim Jun began using tactics that completely confused the alien forces who were watching the battle from the sidelines. He started kicking up clouds of ice crystals and snow to blind Commander Torin, while using the slippery surfaces created by the storm to make the alien commander lose his footing. These were techniques that had been developed during winter warfare training on Earth. The human soldier incorporated the frozen environment as a weapon in ways that no galactic species had ever seen before. He used chunks of ice as projectiles and created slick patches that would cause Commander Torin to slip at critical moments. These improvised tactics showed a level of creativity that the aliens found both impressive and disturbing. Commander Torin tried to counter these unusual strategies by using his forearms to maintain balance and clear away the ice and snow that Kim Jun was using against him. But the alien commander had never trained to fight in these conditions, and he was constantly struggling to adapt to new challenges that appeared every few seconds. Kim Jun noticed that Commander Torin was having difficulty breathing in the thin, cold air, and his reaction time was getting slower as the extreme temperature affected his alien physiology. The human soldier had trained at high altitudes and in Arctic conditions that were far worse than what they were experiencing now. The alien commander attempted to end the fight quickly by launching a desperate four-armed attack designed to overwhelm Kim Jun with pure strength and speed. For a moment it looked like the human soldier was trapped in an unbreakable hold that would crush him and end the battle in favor of the Galactic Federation forces. But Kim Jun had prepared for exactly this type of situation during his years of training in close-quarters combat. He used a combination of joint manipulation techniques and pressure point strikes that he had learned from studying both human martial arts and alien anatomy. Reports provided by Earth Intelligence Services. The human soldier broke free from Commander Torin grip using a sequence of movements that left the alien commander stunned and unable to understand what had just happened. Kim Jun had targeted nerve clusters that existed in most four-armed species and disrupted the signal pathways that controlled muscle function. Commander Torin staggered backward with two of his arms hanging uselessly at his sides while he tried to figure out what the human had done to him. The alien soldiers watching the fight began talking among themselves in worried voices as they realized their champion might actually be losing to a primitive Earth warrior. Kim Jun then did something that shocked everyone who was watching the battle. He removed his heavy winter coat and threw it aside, revealing that he had been fighting while carrying extra weight during the entire combat. This psychological tactic was designed to show enemies that they had not even been facing a human at full capacity. The alien soldiers could see that Kim Jun had been deliberately handicapping himself during the fight, and this realization had a devastating effect on their confidence in their commander abilities. They began to understand that they might have seriously underestimated human combat capabilities and survival skills. Kim June started using equipment from his survival kit in creative ways that demonstrated the human ability to adapt standard tools for combat purposes. He used ice climbing equipment as improvised weapons and emergency flares to create bright distractions that disrupted Commander Torin vision in the blowing snow. The human soldier employed his emergency shelter materials to tangle Commander Torin multiple arms while he was trying to coordinate attacks. Every piece of equipment that Kim June carried had been designed with multiple possible uses in mind, and he had trained extensively in creative applications of standard gear. This level of adaptability and improvisation was completely alien to species that relied primarily on advanced technology, rather than individual creativity and resourcefulness. The watching alien soldiers were beginning to realize that humans possessed mental flexibility that could be more dangerous than superior weapons or armor. Commander Torin became increasingly frustrated and desperate, as nothing he tried seemed to work against this unusual human opponent. The alien commander started making wild, uncontrolled attacks that revealed his growing panic and fear of an embarrassing defeat in front of his own soldiers. Kim June capitalized on every mistake that Commander Torin made by using the alien commander's own momentum against him and setting up combination attacks that exploited weaknesses in four-armed fighting techniques. The human soldier had studied recordings of alien combat methods and developed specific counters for common attack patterns. The alien commander fighting style was breaking down completely as fear and confusion took control of his decision-making process. Commander Torin had never faced an opponent who could adapt this quickly, or who seemed to have prepared specifically for fighting his species. Kim June continued to demonstrate human survival techniques by using the storm conditions to his advantage in ways that impressed even Park Min and Li Han, who were watching from their defensive positions. The staff sergeant was showing alien forces that humans could turn any environment into a tactical advantage. The tide of battle had clearly turned in favor of the human fighter, and even the alien soldiers could see that their commander was in serious trouble. Some of them started reaching for their weapons as they considered the possibility that they might need to intervene to save Commander Torin life. But the Galactic Federation military honor code prevented them from interfering in a formal single combat challenge that had been accepted according to their own ancient traditions. They could only watch helplessly as this lone human demonstrated capabilities that challenged everything they thought they knew about primitive species. Kim June could see the uncertainty and fear growing among the alien forces as they realized that their assumptions about human weakness had been completely wrong. The human soldier understood that this battle was about more than just winning a single fight. It was about changing alien perceptions of human capabilities. Commander Torin was now fighting defensively and trying to avoid Kim June attacks rather than pressing his own offensive. The alien commander had lost confidence in his ability to defeat the human warrior and was hoping to survive long enough for his soldiers to find a reason to intervene in the combat. The watching alien soldiers were discussing among themselves whether they should honor their military traditions or break the rules to save their commander from a defeat that would humiliate the entire Galactic Federation expedition. Some of them were already moving their hands toward their weapons. Kim June realized that the single combat challenge was about to end one way or another, and he prepared for the possibility that he might have to fight all 50 alien soldiers if they decided to abandon their honor code. The human soldier checked his equipment and position while maintaining pressure on the defeated Commander Torin. The storm was reaching its peak intensity with wind speeds that made it difficult for anyone to stand upright, and visibility that was reduced to just a few feet in any direction. These were exactly the conditions where Kim June training and experience gave him the greatest possible advantage over opponents who were not prepared for extreme weather combat. The final confrontation escalated quickly as the surrounded alien soldiers discovered that they were trapped in a frozen maze, where human forces held every tactical advantage. The Northern Commandos demonstrated combat techniques that combined traditional military training with extreme environment survival skills that no galactic species had ever encountered before. Park Min led a team of human soldiers who moved through the deep snow like predators who had evolved specifically for this environment. They appeared and disappeared in the storm using camouflage and terrain knowledge that made them nearly impossible to track or target effectively. The alien forces found themselves fighting enemies who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere, At the same time, Li Han coordinated electronic warfare operations that disrupted alien communications and targeting systems, while human soldiers used the storm conditions to approach enemy positions without being detected. The aliens discovered that their advanced sensors were useless in the extreme weather that humans had learned to use as cover. Kim June delivered the finishing sequence of attacks that left Commander Torin unconscious in the snow. The alien commander had been defeated, not by superior technology, but by human determination, creativity, and months of careful preparation. The psychological impact on the watching alien forces was devastating as they saw their supposedly invincible leader beaten by a single human. The alien soldiers attempted to use their energy weapons in a desperate final assault, but found that the extreme cold had made their equipment unreliable and dangerous to operate. Several alien weapons exploded when their power cells cracked from temperature stress, while human weapons continued to function perfectly in conditions they had been designed for. Commander Torin regained consciousness to find himself surrounded by human soldiers, who were pointing weapons at him that looked primitive, but were clearly effective. The alien commander finally began to understand that he had encountered a species that survived and thrived by adapting to challenges that would destroy most other civilizations. The alien forces tried to retreat to their ships but discovered that human soldiers had already disabled the landing craft using knowledge of alien technology that had been gained through months of careful observation and preparation. The Northern Commandos had studied every detail of alien equipment and knew exactly how to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. Kim June approached Commander Torin and offered him a choice between surrender and continued fighting that would result in the complete destruction of the alien expedition. The human commander made it clear that his forces were prepared for either option and that the aliens had no chance of escape from their current position. Commander Torin looked around at his defeated soldiers and realized that continuing to fight would only result in unnecessary casualties for forces that had already been completely outmaneuvered. The alien commander had never been in a situation where surrender was the only reasonable option available. The alien leader formally surrendered his forces and requested permission to leave the planet peacefully. Kim June granted this request, but made it clear that any future attempts to threaten human territory would be met with responses that would make this encounter seem like a friendly conversation. Park Min and Li Han supervised the disarming of alien forces. Just when Kim June was about to deliver the final blow that would end the single combat challenge, Commander Torin made a desperate signal to his soldiers with one of his remaining functional arms. The alien commander had never intended to honor the results of the fight and had planned from the beginning to destroy the human base regardless of what happened during the battle. The 50 alien soldiers immediately began raising their energy weapons and moving into attack positions around the human base. Their advanced technology started powering up with humming sounds that cut through the noise of the storm. Kim June realized that he had been tricked by an enemy who had no intention of following Galactic Federation honor codes. Commander Torin laughed weakly from where he lay beaten in the snow and explained that the single combat challenge had just been a way to waste time while his forces got into better positions to attack. The alien commander told Kim June that humans were too primitive to deserve honorable treatment and would be exterminated like insects. Kim June felt anger rising inside him, but he kept his expression calm and controlled, as he had been trained to do in crisis situations. Instead of showing fear or rage at this betrayal, he simply smiled and reached for his communication device while keeping his eyes on the threatening alien forces. The human soldier spoke 3 words into his radio that meant nothing to the aliens, but had been planned for months in case of exactly this type of situation. Kim June said clearly Northern Lights Protocol, and then stepped back to watch what would happen next as his message was received by hidden forces. Suddenly, the landscape around the combat area began to transform as camouflaged positions that had been invisible in the snow started revealing themselves. What the aliens had thought was empty, frozen terrain, was actually filled with concealed human soldiers, weapons, and defensive equipment. Park Min and Li Han emerged from perfectly hidden snow bunkers along with 48 other Northern Commandos, who had been waiting and watching throughout the entire confrontation. The human soldiers had been positioned in the area for weeks, and their camouflage was so effective that even advanced alien sensors had not detected their presence. The alien forces found themselves completely surrounded by human soldiers who seemed to appear from nowhere in the blowing snow. Each human was equipped with cold weather gear that made them nearly invisible in the Arctic environment, and they carried weapons that had been specifically designed for extreme weather operations. Commander Torin's eyes went wide with shock and fear as he realized that he had walked directly into a carefully prepared trap. The humans had not just been mining crystals on this planet, they had been building defensive positions and testing military equipment while preparing for the possibility of hostile alien contact. Kim Jun stood up and brushed snow off his uniform, while explaining to the stunned alien commander that humans had known about galactic civilizations for several months and had been preparing for this type of encounter. The single combat challenge had given human forces time to get into perfect positions around the alien ships. The alien soldiers tried to use their advanced energy weapons, but quickly discovered that the extreme cold was causing malfunctions in their equipment. The power cells were not designed to operate in temperatures this low, and several weapons failed completely when their operators tried to fire them. Meanwhile, the human weapons continued to function perfectly because they had been designed and tested specifically for Arctic warfare conditions. Every piece of human equipment had been modified to work in temperatures that would disable most galactic technology. Park Min coordinated the human forces using hand signals and tactical communication methods that had been developed for situations where electronic equipment might not work properly. The northern commandos moved through the snow like ghosts, appearing and disappearing before the confused alien soldiers could track their movements effectively. Han used his technical expertise to jam the alien communication systems, while other human soldiers targeted the power sources of the alien ships. The humans had studied, captured alien technology, and knew exactly which systems were most vulnerable to sabotage and environmental interference. The alien forces realized too late that they had been outmaneuvered by opponents they had assumed were primitive and helpless. The humans had spent months preparing for this encounter while the aliens had expected an easy conquest based on their past experiences with other species. Commander Torin tried to order his soldiers to fight their way back to their ships, but the alien forces were scattered and confused by the sudden appearance of human soldiers in positions they had not expected. The carefully planned alien attack had turned into a desperate retreat in minutes. Kim Jun approached the defeated alien commander and explained that this had been a test to determine alien intentions and capabilities. The humans had wanted to know whether galactic civilizations would try to use diplomacy or force when they made contact with Earth. The alien commander demanded to know how humans had known about the Galactic Federation when they were supposed to be isolated on their home planet. Kim Jun smiled and told him that humans had been monitoring alien communications and activities in their region of space for longer than the aliens realized. Commander Torin finally understood that he had seriously underestimated human intelligence capabilities as well as their military skills. The aliens had assumed that a species without faster-than-light travel would be ignorant of galactic politics and unprepared for alien contact. The revelation that humans had been secretly preparing for galactic contact changed everything about how the alien forces viewed this encounter. They realized that Earth was not going to be an easy conquest, and that human capabilities had been deliberately hidden from galactic observation. Kim Jun ordered his soldiers to secure the alien weapons and equipment while keeping the enemy forces under guard. The human commander made it clear that the aliens were now prisoners who would be treated according to human military regulations rather than galactic law. The storm was beginning to clear as the Northern Lights Protocol reached its final phase. Human reinforcements were arriving from hidden positions throughout the region, and the alien forces found themselves completely outnumbered and outmaneuvered by opponents they had never taken seriously. Commander Torin realized that his expedition had failed completely, and that he would have to explain to the Galactic Federation how a primitive human force had defeated advanced alien technology using nothing but superior preparation, intelligence, and environmental advantages.